Thank you for that brilliantly fearless introduction. I'm a clinical psychologist, and I work with people experiencing common mental health problems like anxiety and depression. This is me, aged about 13, with my lovely mum and sister. And as I'm standing here in front of all of you, my first thought is, why am I voluntarily sharing a picture from my teenage years? And secondly, I think I'm going to be in trouble with my sister. I should probably have asked her permission. But there's a reason I'm showing you this picture. As although today I want to talk to you about what I believe the foundations of happiness to be, to put it all into context, first I need to take you on a trip back in time. So here I am at school. I was an average student, never the first to hand in homework. I did fine, but I was never really engaged. I wouldn't have been named most likely to do much by any of the teachers or my friends. My dad even said to me after I completed my doctorate, in the nicest of ways, we'd never have expected you to be the one to do all this. For uni, I wanted to study psychology. Whilst I'd never had a favourite subject, I've always been interested in people, probably verging on nosy. I sat all the career tests and psychology came out top score. I excitedly went to tell my mum about my chosen profession. Her response? All the psychologists I know are depressed. After a failed attempt to study medicine, following in my grandparents' footsteps, I took a gap year and applied for psychology. It wasn't until I discovered psychology at university that I finally found a subject I loved. I felt engaged and curious, and I wanted to know more. The trouble was, I was also interested in having fun. At 22, I graduated and moved to London to be with my friends. On finding the easiest way to make money, I got a job in IT recruitment. Not a considered decision. I'm very good at convincing myself of things. And at the time, I thought that I could be motivated by money and it would give me access to doing things like traveling, trips, nights out, new clothes. I lived in London, I had fun, I went out a lot. I quickly realized that money definitely didn't motivate me. And whilst recruitment might be a route to riches, for me, it wasn't a route to happiness. This voice kept saying, I want more. My walk to work would take me through Temple. I'd take a back route through the law courts. It was one of the highlights of my day. The buildings are so beautiful. And although you're right next to the bustle of London, the gardens are so peaceful. Temple Church is inside a quiet courtyard tucked inside a maze of buildings, and it's like going back in time. I got here one morning, and I found myself sitting down in tears. This is not how I want my life to be. I felt directionless, without purpose. I wanted to do something that meant something to me. I thought about all the things I'd enjoyed doing, and I kept coming back to psychology. It was the one thing I'd done that did really mean something to me. It felt worth working hard for. In fact, it didn't really feel like work at all. I loved the puzzle of people, and the theories and research just made so much sense to me. Despite everybody around me saying, it's not a solid profession, it's not going to give you what you need, I followed my instincts and went back to school. I found a course, I convinced my work to let me go part-time, and I got a master's in health psychology. It was doing that course that I did a module in clinical psychology, and then I knew what I wanted to do. 2 years later, I got a place on the Doctorate course. I loved training. I finally felt like I was in the right place, headed in the right direction. I was the person in the front row of every lecture with my full attention on everything being said. I remember feeling so smug that I wasn't out working like my friends, but being paid to do something I loved. It was on the course that I came up with the idea for the books. The ideas we learned about were fascinating, but many of them were so simple and common sense and so easy to put into practice. I could see they could make a real difference to people and that others could benefit from them, even if they weren't suffering from depression, even if they didn't have anxiety, and that knowing these things might even prevent some of these problems. For example, thoughts aren't facts. When your mind is chatting away and thoughts are running through your head, often we don't even stop to question them. I did really badly. He gave me a funny look. They hate my talk. Instead, we accept them as the truth, especially when we're feeling anxious, low, or insecure. And those thoughts feed into your mood and leave you feeling even worse. But as real as it might feel, it's just a thought, a hypothesis. It's your interpretation of what's going on. Your thoughts are definitely not facts. It's such a simple way to think about your thoughts, and really obvious, but I only knew about it because I was lucky enough to be doing the training course. It made me think I shouldn't be the only one who knows about this. I wanted to make these ideas more accessible. I completed my doctorate thesis and was married a few days later. It was a wonderful time. I was married to an amazing man and soon to become a clinical psychologist. And she lived happily ever after. That is what I was thinking at that point. But I think you know it's never that simple. After the birth of my son, I felt like I had to make my work count, that any time away from him had to be worth it. I became really goal-focused. I set up my private practice, I got a 4-book deal, and I was pregnant again soon after. My main focus was on getting the books done before the baby came. I hit all my deadlines, and my second child, my beautiful daughter, arrived. Inside that box are my books. They just arrived. It's the culmination of years of hard work, an idea that started when I was training and is now a reality. My checklist was complete. Doctorate in Clinical Psychology, my own private practice, a husband I love, 2 amazing children, a beautiful home. But rather than transforming my life, I felt disconnected and lonely. I'd achieved everything I'd set out to. I'd done all the things I thought would make me happy, but I just felt exhausted, in dread. I was hitting my goals one after another, but the feeling of contentment wasn't there. It was a really hard time. I had a new baby. I'd get up, leave 2 kids at home, go to my office, promote my books. On my days at home, I was getting to grips with looking after 2 small children. I didn't feel like I was getting much right, and there was no space for happiness. My co-author was out Instagramming pictures of the books in bookstores, posting them on Facebook, signing copies of the book. I couldn't even open that box. I stood in front of that box of books, looking at the package, thinking, why am I not happy? I really had to sit down and think, why? Why am I so uninterested? This is an idea I was so passionate about at the start. And now I feel like I don't even care. If reaching your goals doesn't mean you can enjoy life and be content, what do we need to think or do to be truly happy? Based on my experience and knowledge, knowing me and how psychology works, why am I at this place? The thought my mum was right crossed my mind. When I was younger, I thought of life as simple and predictable. You grow up, you work hard, you achieve your goals, and life just slots into place. I think I'd expected life to be perfect. When I look back at my earlier self, I can see I'd fallen into the trap of believing that the next goal, the next achievement would mean I was there, whatever there is, that something external needed to change before I could really relax and enjoy my life. This is how my life was before the books came out. I'd sacrificed everything that didn't fit with my goals, telling myself I'd get back to it when I was done. Believing this is how it would be afterwards. Loads of time with my family, hopefully a holiday, time with friends, definitely time for exercise. But you never actually get there. There was no great change in my life as I'd expected. It's like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. It just keeps moving over the next hill. The key realization I had is it's not reaching your goals that matters. but how you get there that is most important. I was thinking of life as a race to a destination. What I really needed to recognize is it's an adventure. In a race, you take the quickest route to where you want to go. In an adventure, there is no perfect route. The main aim is to explore. It's having a daily life that fulfills you, rather than waiting for a time that never comes. This is how I now live my life. That doesn't mean that every day is a great day. It's okay to have ups and downs. Often, it's the challenges we gain the most from. An adventure should be meaningful and enriching, but that doesn't mean big changes or grand gestures. My motto now is that what you do every day is what makes the biggest difference. It's the small steps that lead to the biggest changes. How we feel is a natural product of all of the choices we make, but especially the small choices that each of us makes every day. And those small changes, when added together one by one, can have a massive impact, like trees in a forest, or the bricks that went into making Temple Church. It's not reaching a goal that means you arrive, it's using what you have in your life right now. We all have within us the opportunity to live a happy life, whatever our circumstances. So to finish, I'm going to tell you about 3 small changes I've made for my everyday to put my motto into practice. The first is, I take each day a little slower. I was so busy rushing around, doing everything I thought I should be, and taking myself far too seriously, that I wasn't stopping to appreciate the richness of my life. One day, I didn't even stop for milk on my way home from work because it would take time out of my plan. If you're going at 100 miles an hour, it's hard to have an adventure. It's only by slowing down and switching out of autopilot that we can really take things in. I had everything I needed. Rather than waiting to achieve a goal, I appreciate what I already have in my life, and slowing down helps me do that. There's no hurry. Sometimes I have to repeat that to myself quite loudly. Secondly, I leave myself some empty time. I don't want my time so filled that I don't have a moment to sit back and take it all in. I've learned that not all time needs to be productive. We're not machines. We don't need to be doing or thinking all of the time. Rest and recovery are essential parts of a healthy and happy life. Empty time lets me step back, switch off, and reflect on where I am and where I'm headed. It gives my mind a chance to wander and come up with new ideas. It lets me check in with how I'm feeling and to listen to my body and mind. It's like a mini version of when you go on holiday and you come back with renewed motivation and feeling like everything's back under control. It's only by stopping that we can restart with a fresh sense of perspective. Making time for the things I enjoy is my third change, the natural highs. Natural highs are the things that make you feel alive. Your favorite music turned up loud. Running, the outdoors, doing well at work, being part of a performance, doing something that makes you feel great, whether it's giggling or just having fun. Natural highs are our relationships, kindness, giving back or being part of something bigger than us, things I'd given up when I was focused only on achieving and my goals. Since I've changed my approach, I feel happier and more content. It's a byproduct of doing what you enjoy and find meaningful. You can't chase it or find it. It's one of the great paradoxes of life. The simple truth is, ticking off the checklist will not make you happy. Yes, I have goals. I still love goals. Getting rid of them isn't the answer. It's making sure we approach them in the right way. My goals do not define me. I do not suffer in my pursuit of them, and they are not some kind of test of my self-worth. My life is now, being with my husband, hugging my kids, being in a room with any one of the amazing people I have the privilege to work with, working on new ideas, catching up with my mum and dad, giggling with friends over a glass of wine, walking along the seafront where I live, running this morning with my music turned up loud, being here with you. That's what life's all about to me. That's an adventure of a lifetime. So if you take only one thing from today, it should be this. In terms of happiness and fulfillment, what you do every day is what makes the biggest difference. How we feel is a natural product of all of the choices we make. And it's just about doing one small thing with what you already have in your life. Not next week, not when you complete your goal, but today we can gain satisfaction from the simplest of things, whether it's how we view our life and value it, or the actions we take. Small steps might not sound so dramatic, but they add up. You don't climb a mountain and suddenly you're at the top. It's many steps that take you to the summit. When I was trying to work life out, I missed the point. There is no perfect formula. Everyone's adventure will be different, and like any great adventure, it's a process that never truly ends. Keep Ithaca always in your mind. Arriving there is what you were destined for, but do not hurry the journey at all. Better if it lasts for years. So you are old by the time you reach the island, wealthy with all you have gained on the way, not expecting Ithaca to make you rich. Thank you for listening.